You would think that almost all problems can be solved via GenAI, but what kind of GenAI? Let's talk about that. Let's explore that. There are four ways, and only four ways, any GenAI solution can be implemented. As you go down this arrow, the cost, the technical expertise, and the efforts increase in an exponential manner. I have built a very small guideline that helps you navigate the complex query of how to solve a particular problem using some GenAI solution. What happens if the information is not publicly available, if the data is not publicly available? Are there public data sets available for the medical domain? Well, yes, they are publicly available. We have seen a lot of publicly available, encrypted but publicly available. PII is hidden. Hello, everyone. Good day to all. Today, we are going to talk about when to use GenAI. Well, you would think that almost all problems can be solved via GenAI, but what kind of GenAI? Let's talk about that. Let's explore that. So, the first thing you need to note is business factors. Now, what does that mean? Not all organizations will have the energy, time, or capacity to implement all kinds of solutions. Well, there are mainly three main business factors. The first one is cost. For every project, there is a cost associated. For every project, there is a cost associated. Not just the infrastructure, but the employee salary and their time as well. Then the efforts. How much time will a project take? If a project is so complex that it takes 6 months to implement, is it worth the effort? Is it something that you should do? Is it something that the organization should implement? Finally, technical expertise. Should you implement something that your organization does not have the technical expertise of? For example, you are the sole data scientist in a startup. Should they implement a really, really complex data science solution? Well, the answer is obviously no. Because what happens if you go? What happens if you are unavailable? The entire production pipeline can get stuck. There are four ways, and only four ways, any GenAI solution can be implemented. The first one is prompt engineering. The second one is RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. The third one is fine tuning large language models. And finally, the most complex one, which is training large language models from scratch. As you go down this arrow, the cost, the technical expertise, and the efforts increase in an exponential manner. Not just business factors, as a developer, you will also need to look at the technical perspective. From the technical perspective, you need to ask a few questions. But the most basic foundational question is, what is the information required for that particular task? So, I have built a very small guideline that helps you navigate the complex query of how to solve a particular problem using some GenAI solution. The first question would be, what is the information required for the task? Or will the LLM have the information available during its initial training? Or let's make it simpler. Is there a public data set associated with a similar problem statement or not? Because if there is a public data set, we can be very sure that the large language model has taken that public data set and trained on it. There will be two branches. First, we'll talk about if the data is available publicly or not. The next question that you will need to ask in this guideline is the task simple? If it is simple, then you use prompt engineering. Otherwise, you fine tune large language models. Now, what happens if the information is not publicly available, if the data is not publicly available? Well, then you need to ask the question, is the information required for the task static or not? Is it changing a lot, or is it changing maybe once a year, maybe twice a year at the most? If the information is static, then you use RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Otherwise, you use large language model based agentic AI. Notice that I have not put training large language models from scratch in this particular guideline. Well, because it is really hard to implement. It takes a lot of effort, and you won't really know the results until and unless the training is complete. It's a high risk, high reward game, but no organization would be willing to take that risk until and unless you are doing some research oriented work. Now, let's walk through this guideline by looking at a couple of scenarios. Scenario one is basically you want to use LLMs to generate medical diagnosis using medical records. Well, let's review our guideline. Will the information be available during the initial training of the large language model? Let me rephrase this question. Are there public data sets available for the medical domain? Well, yes, they are publicly available. We have seen a lot of publicly available, encrypted but publicly available PII is hidden data sets for medical domain. Is the task simple? Well, I would not say that, because even humans only get a 80% accuracy in medical diagnosis. So what will we use to solve this particular problem statement? Well, we'll need to fine tune large language models. Scenario 2, you want to develop a chatbot that gets access to all of your company policy details, and you can ask any question of that chatbot. So this basically helps in freeing up the HR, so that the HR does not have to answer every query from one of the few thousand employees that exist in that organization. Let's go back to our guideline. Will the LLM have information available during its initial training? Let me rephrase it. Are there public data sets available to the company policy? Well, I would say no. Company policies are closely guarded. They are protected documents. So no, the information will not be available. Then, is the information static? Well, company policies do change, but they change like once a year, maybe once a quarter. Definitely not once every hour. So the information is static. So we will implement RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. If you like this approach and this guideline, I will just say a couple of things. One, you will not find this guideline anywhere else on the internet, because this is a guideline created by me, and I have created this guideline after failing a lot. I have an entire museum of failures of implementing projects in the wrong manner, and then I came to this particular conclusion, and then I came to this particular guideline. I created this after a lot of sweat, blood, and tears. Two, I talk about this guideline and all of the solutions there in the bottom in my generative AI course that is launching soon. If you are interested, please leave a comment below. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.